Rube, it's draft season. It's now officially draft season. I'm down here in Mobile. I'm in my hotel room doing this, but I was just at the stadium.
Luxuriously appointed.
It is. There's some nice artwork over there on the wall. But just got back from the first Senior Bowl practice. It's exciting. It's. I always enjoy the Senior Bowl. I haven't been here in a few years, but I really like coming, and the Eagles certainly like coming here.
Yeah, it's one thing, and I did the combine probably 8 or 10 years. Never been to the Senior Bowl. I remember the first time I learned that the scouts all leave before the game, and that the practices are really what's valued the most. So it's really the first out of the Senior Bowl, the combine, and the pro days. I mean, there's X number of opportunities for these kids to impress scouts, and it starts here.
Yeah, it absolutely does. This is the Eagle Eye Podcast with Reuben Frank. I'm Dave Zangaro. It's interesting because the Eagles, you look at their draft history, and man, they take a lot of players that they get a chance to meet and to watch in Mobile. And the one that we have to mention from their past, we're not allowed to on this podcast. But the former quarterback, they really fell in love with him. I remember being down here in 2016, watching him on the field. This is where the plan hatched for them to draft him. At the time, they were sitting at 13, and we thought, well, they can sit at 13 and draft this kid. And then eventually, he was the second pick in the draft. But really, down here in Alabama is where they figured out, like, this is our guy. We have to really do as much homework on him as we can. And they ended up drafting him. But it's not just 11. Jalen Hurts was down here. There have been a ton of players. Just last year, Devontae Smith didn't participate in the on-field stuff, but they met him down here. They really do put a lot of stock into the players that come to the Senior Bowl.
I really wonder, like, somebody's listening to this podcast for the first time and don't know about our silly little proclivities, our little rules. I think we should tell everyone that when we're talking about the quarterback they drafted, it's Clayton Thorsten. We should let everyone know, just so they're not confused. But no, Dave's talking obviously about the guy who spent this past year in Indianapolis. I don't have any trouble saying his name, but I won't. But yeah, it's where these guys make their first impression. And the thing that always struck me funny is how these guys play 11 games, 12 games, whatever during the season, and then they do the combine and the pro day and the Senior Bowl and all this stuff, and it changes. I still think that there should be a premium on what you do on the field in the games. But I think one thing about the Senior Bowl is for guys that don't play in a power conference, it gives them a chance to compete against the top guys, which they might not ever have the opportunity to do. I mean, with Carson, with Clayton, I mean, there was so many questions about his level of competition. I mean, he wasn't playing elite teams. He's playing 1AA or whatever they call it now, and so you go to the combine, and you go to the Senior Bowl, and all of a sudden you're playing against guys from the SEC and the ACC and the Big Ten, and it's really the first chance, guys from those smaller schools and smaller programs and smaller conferences get to go against the best of the best.
Yeah, that's really the key. It's more of a level playing field for everyone. You get to see those guys who have, in some cases really dominated a lower level of competition, but like, all right, now this is a little different. This is, you're going against guys who will be drafted. I mean, last year, I think it was something like 41% of the players who got drafted were at the Senior Bowl. So, I mean, you're going against really high level competition. And there's a few players like that this year who have a chance from smaller schools. Malik Willis is the one who's going to be talked about most from this week, the quarterback from Liberty. He's a higher level competition type of guy, but we haven't really seen him do that. So those are the questions that some of these kids can answer this week. And that's really, if you talk to personnel people around the league, that's what they say they like about this is the level of competition at the Senior Bowl is really, really high. And it's funny, every year you see how different coaching staffs run the practices, and some practices are great for evaluating, and some aren't. There's some practices you're like, what are they even doing out there? Why would they do this? I thought the first day today was decent. There was some decent competition, a little more standing around than I'd like in some of them, but overall, I mean, it was a good first day, and it solidified some things for me, and it also raised my eyebrows and made me open my eyes a little bit about some other stuff. Jermaine Johnson, who I had go to the Eagles in my latest mock draft, I feel smart right now because he had a monster first day, the edge rusher from Florida State. We talk so much about edge rusher for the Eagles, but I mean, it's not just the Michigan kids. It's not just Karlaftis. I mean, there's other edge rushers in this draft. It's a pretty good group.
Yeah, but I think, and who knows, they might take 3 of them in the first round, just kind of replenish the whole position. But you were on him early. What do you look for from those edge rushers down there? What kind of, like, what traits do you want to see in a guy?
Well, it depends. I mean, it depends on their body type, because guys do different things, right? I mean, I wouldn't expect every edge rusher to rely on the same moves, but he's just such a big guy. I mean, he's like 6'5". He's and he's long too, long arms. So you get to watch him. He bull rushed at the end of practice, and he put the Kentucky tackle, I forget his name, on his back. He also used a spin move today. He's shown quickness, and I wanted to see him against, because there are some really good offensive linemen here. Jeff Stoutland's down here, by the way. A bunch of the Eagles coaches are here. Well, a few of them are here. And Stout was out there on the field, just in his own little world, watching the O-lineman, which was cool. But you want to see him against high-level competition, and there's definitely some high-level competition here.
Yeah, it's. I'm sure any college offensive lineman would do well to try to get a couple of minutes with Stout, and I mean, what a resource.
Absolutely. I mean, so it was. I would think so. Yeah. And we'll see if he ends up running some drills at the combine this year. He's done that a few times before.
Right.
He's so respected around the league. It was cool to see Deuce. Deuce Staley is the head coach of the American team. So it's the Lions and the Jets, but then they pick an assistant coach on the staff to kind of take over as the head coach for the week. And it was cool. Deuce ended his practice today with a one-on-one competitive period between Johnson and the offensive lineman, 3 reps, and you got to watch them go at it. I kind of like ending practice on a cool note like that.
It's interesting. And, I give Dan Campbell a lot of credit. I mean, he's been like, nobody wants to lose any assistants. And I still don't know if Deuce really has a realistic shot of becoming a head coach. I think he'd be good at it if he did. There's a lot working against him. But Dan Campbell has really, I mean, from the get-go, I mean, he's campaigned for him. He's made it clear he believes Deuce has what it takes to be a head coach. He gave him that assistant head coach title, and then something like this. It's great. It's great for Deuce, and it's good for the rest of the football world to see him in that role.
Yeah. So down here, we saw Nick Sirianni walking around with Howie Roseman for a little bit. The Eagles have a brain trust here. They always do. I mean, they're not going to be here a super long time, but they're getting their work in, and they're making sure they're looking at everyone. I'm trying to think through my notes of what really stood out today. The tight ends, really good tight end class. That's it shows you here in Mobile that the tight ends are good, but also in general, when you're talking about this draft class, tight ends it's a good group. And it's a position where you think like the Eagles are okay, but I mean, if they are a run team going forward, Jack Stoll's the number 2, and he did a fine job this year. But if you're going to be in 12 personnel more, maybe it's not a bad idea to draft one in a mid round.
Yeah, Jack Stoll's a really good blocker. He caught a couple passes, but if you're going to run the ball that much and you're going to play 2 tight ends, I think ideally you want that second guy to be able to catch you, a couple passes, 20, 25 passes a year, which I don't think Jack Stoll will do. I mean, he showed good hands in training camp, so who knows? Maybe they can get something out of him in the receiving game. But I do think it's a position that they probably would upgrade. It's really interesting to me, and this is probably too big a topic for us right now, but the way the tight end position has evolved. I mean, there were never guys like Kelsey and Kittle and Mark Andrews. There were never guys. I mean, even Ertz was before. I mean, that whole group of guys is just on another level of tight ends. And I think not too long ago, I mean, Chad Lewis was a Pro Bowler. I don't think he ever had like more than 400 yards in a. It's just like I think the position's really evolved, and I think you're seeing just more athletic guys. I think guys are. It used to be just kind of a slow, lumbering big guy who would catch a few passes for like 4 or 5 yards on 3rd and 3. But these guys are so athletic now, and they're big, and they're getting down the field, and they make great catches. And I mean, Goddard is, I think we're so used to Ertz catching all these 80 passes a year. Goddard's like really, really good, and like, I mean, he's 10 years ago he'd be a first-team All-Pro, but the bar has been raised so high. It's been interesting to see, and I think I assume that's kind of reflected in the tight ends that you see. They're just they're just on another level physically and athletically and size-wise.
Yeah. I was disappointed. 3 of the players I really wanted to watch this week pulled out. Jahan Dotson from Penn State, Devin Lloyd from Utah, and James Cook, the running back from Georgia. 3 guys that, they're going to be high draft picks. I think Lloyd's probably going to be the first or second linebacker off the board. Dotson has a chance to be a first rounder. Cook, we'll see, but I mean, there's a lot of talk about him coming into this week. So I was disappointed in those guys not participating, especially Lloyd. Lloyd, I don't know. It was funny. I was watching them practice, and I was trying to find him on the field because they were the early practice, and I haven't had a chance to find out why. But I'm looking on the field, and he's not there. It's a shame. I wanted to watch him, but I mean, Devin Lloyd. I'd probably put him at the top of my list of guys I wanted to watch this week.
Oh, no doubt about it. I mean, I think Dotson's a guy who, I mean, I think in my mock 2nd round draft, I'll have him in there because I think right now he needs a really good spring to get into the 1st round.
Yeah, he could be in the 20s right now, I think.
Could be.
Yeah, but every year we talk about the 1st round, and there's 45 guys who we say are first rounders. So
I know
there won't be.
Every time I do a mock draft, I'm like, I don't have this guy. I got to get this guy in the first. And they're like, well, you can't have everybody. And, there's probably like, if you checked all the mock drafts, probably be like 50 different guys going in the 1st round. They won't all, unless they had 18 comp picks in the 1st round, but
yeah.
They won't do. So, but I think this is where, a lot of that, any Penn State guy, I think is interesting to people around here. I mean, half our staff Penn State. So,
Yeah. I'm trying to think what else really stood out. The defensive linemen in general, I thought D-line had a good day because there's pretty good offensive linemen here, but there are good defensive linemen. Logan Hall from Houston had a good day. There was a lot of push up the gut. I like that. That was fun. Kobe Bryant, the Cincinnati corner who plays opposite Ahmad Gardner, who rightfully so gets all the love there. That was fun to watch. I don't know. It was a good first day. My head's spinning a little bit because I'm running on no sleep and I have to sort through my notes. But on the next podcast on Thursday, I'll be able to give you a couple of days update.